Alrighty then, I think I've got just the video for you guys that are building your own tiny house and you're using second-hand windows. All my windows, and even this one included, look how nice that one is, looked exactly like this. And I'm going to show you how I take a window like this into what looks like almost a new window. Also, consider subscribing, because a channel like this is like a library of information. You may not be doing any painting right now, but who in the world doesn't at some point in their lives do painting? So it's like a library that's there on hold just in case you need it. Enough of that. Let's go up to the workshop. I'll show you what the processes I take to get this into a very nice looking window. Okay, a lot of you will probably already have your windows already in your building. But if not, it's probably going to be a little bit easier to work on without it being in the building. But either way, it doesn't matter. The first thing we're going to do is have a close look at this. It takes about 30 seconds to figure out what we need to do to clean this up to get it ready and prep for painting. Being that there's two sides to the window, which obviously we all know that, but meaning there's an interior side and an exterior side. And being an old window, the exterior side, if you run your hand across the actual aluminium, it's very bumpy. We know that at some point we're going to have to give that a slight bit of sand to make that smooth. And that's just corrosion. I don't know how old this window is. I'm guessing 50 years old. The inside is fairly smooth, apart from cobwebs and a lot of dust. It's going to come up really, really nice. Back to the outside, we've got some old bits of timber frame that was around the window. We've got to remove that, and there's a very, very old bit of the rubber bit that keeps the rain off. We need to remove that. If this rubber was in good nick, we would mask it off and leave it there. It's really, really old. It's got rips in it, so that's got to be replaced. To replace those, you're probably going to have to go to an aluminium window manufacturer and see what they can come up with. I'm sure you'll find something. But being this is so dusty, I'm going to take this outside real quick. And we're just going to start dusting this off. Get all the dust off of it first. We'll just give it a really good dust. My next step is just to remove the nails. I noticed when dusting there was a nail going through the rebate here, the timber rebate. So I'll just get all that off and we'll take it from there. It's actually another day. I had a really massive mishap yesterday. The camera, I was working on this, cleaning it up, and I knocked over my other camera. And it fell on the ground and broke my lens. And I only found out today that even the camera isn't quite working properly. So it was a very, very expensive mishap. Regardless, the show must go on. I've already sanded the other side. The bits of aluminium on this side, we only need to worry ourselves about this one edge, the outside edge here, and around to the face of the window. Everything else, where the trim goes, you don't have to worry about it. And this is only going to take me about 3 minutes, so let's get it done. that's pretty much it. That's how fast it goes. I will say though, I'm using 180 grit sandpaper. 120 is probably a little bit fine for what you want, and you'll also get away with 220, might even be a bit better. On this window, it's probably that old. It doesn't have a little rubber thing which you'd probably mask off when you mask the window. When you are sanding against a window, make sure, see how my paper is square. I take off a little bit and I fold it in 3, and there's a reason for that too. So you fold it in 3 so it matches up. There's a reason for that, so it doesn't slide. If you don't do that, your paper just kind of slides. But if you just do it that one extra fold, then it doesn't slide. Another good reason I do that is I got a nice straight edge. So when I put this up right against the window, where I've got there's a little bit of putty in there, and I want to just give that just a little bit of sand. So if you touch the window, no matter what paper you're using, you're going to scratch the glass. I couldn't count how many windows I've redone, and there's just scratches everywhere from DIYs not being careful. So just be careful when you're standing up really close to glass. To mask this off, I did it how I think that the DIY would do it. Normally I would be using a masker like that. That's so much faster, but you're not going to buy one of these for one window, or let alone even maybe one project. So what I've done is I've gone around with some tape, and I've just used this tape because this is what I found in my cupboards there. Any painter's masking tape will do the job. But the very first one you want to put down is just a line of tape. It is a lot easier to handle. So it's all masked off and we are ready to paint, but because this is aluminium, we're going to use what's called an etch primer. It's a special primer, and it's particularly made for aluminium windows. You don't need 2 or 3 coats, and even the first coat that you apply with this on there, it's going to look terrible. You don't need to keep going over and over until it covers. All this is going to do is just allow for this subsequent coats of paint to stick better to the aluminium. That's its only job. You see a lot of people say, oh yeah, I'm going to put 2 or 3, I put 2 coats, I put 3 coats of primer on. The first coat of primer does the job. The second one, you're just wasting your money and your time. Your finished paint, that's the one that has to cover, but because it may not cover on the first coat because it might start running or sagging, you may have to let that sit and then come back in an hour or 2 and put another coat of paint on there. I've already done the other side. You're going to see this doesn't cover very well. And for other primers and undercoats, I've just uploaded a video for primers and undercoats, what you need to know. And for most instances, you don't even need them. So watch that. There's a card up here above, and I'll also put a link down in the description below. This is where the trim will go on your building. So you don't need to put any paint whatsoever there. From the face of that, maybe the back little tiny edge, onto right to the edge of your window, that's where you want to get your paint. try to stay out of the way. I'll get you a close-up of that. It looks terrible, but we're not worried about that. So, like I said, the next coat of paint is going to really stick to that, and it's not going to come off. I almost forgot. Any kind of time you're using a spray tin or a spray bomb, as they call it, when you're finished, tip it upside down, count to, I don't know, 5 seconds. Hope you can see this. See if you can see that. And then you push the button, and you're going to look for the very first thing that'll happen is paint will come out, but then a primer or a thinner will come out. You can even hear the difference. So all of a sudden, what we've done now is clean our tip. Next time I pick this up, it'll work just fine. It's been roughly 2.5 hours. It's good and dry. I've already painted the other side, and now we got to paint this side. And as you saw from painting with the primer, it only takes a minute. So it's the same thing. And just a hint for the DIYs, when you push that little nozzle down, you want to be moving. You don't want to just push the nozzle down and then start moving, because you will get a nice big run in your paint. So, and the other thing is just start off further back, and you can see you'll just manually adjust. Let's paint it. You'll find that this covers a little bit better than the primer. It's not quite covering. I could probably make it cover, but I don't want any sags and runs. So I'll just come back and make sure on the second coat that it covers. See, I'm just fogging that on there. That's it. That didn't even take a minute, so that'll be good and dry in the morning. We'll put our last coat on, and we'll basically have a brand new window. The third and final coat, actually second coat of finish. And again, I've already done the other side. It's easier to do the other side first and flip it over, which I can't do that with this side. I'm always telling people to always sand between coats, any coats. And it's been no different with this little project. Now on the last bit of sanding, which I've already done the sanding, and I've used 180, it's probably a little bit sharp or gritty for an actual finish for this, but it's all I have. I don't have 220. So if you got 220, with the last bit of sanding, 220. But the only thing to watch and be careful with sanding this is try not to roll the edges. And you'll see if you've rolled it, because it'll just go right straight back down to the aluminium, and it'll be shiny. And if you get that, well, then basically when you paint it and you finish it, it's only got one coat on just that, on that corner. Last coat. This is going to come up beautiful. One other thing I want to let you know. Oh, Jesus, Rick. One other thing I want to tell you about. On the inside, on the rebate part of this window, be careful here. Especially in tiny houses, there's a lot of natural timber with just a clear finish. I'm going to paint this. But if you were going to keep it natural, then there's more taping to do. You would mask that rebate off so you don't get paint on like I have. Now I've gone ahead and I put a coat of paint, acrylic paint, on the inside of the window rebate on the timber. And I'm glad I did that. I only did it just to show the window off. It looks a bit better. But what it's shown to me is it's got what we call bleed through. And a lot of you that are working with old timber in particular, you're going to run across this and you're not going to know how to deal with it, or at least most of you won't. So you've got to use a special kind of primer sealer. And I used bin, or from a company called Zinsser. I think that was the first one that was out. That's why I use it. Here's another one, Prep Lock. It's from Dulux. It's exactly the same stuff. I used the spray bombs for little spots in ceilings when I used to do a lot of painting, and that was just spray this and it'd be dry in 50 minutes and I can paint over it. And I didn't have to clean out brushes or anything, but bigger areas and things like this, you're going to have to put a coat of this on there. So it'll be a brush, and you're going to know if a sealer is going to work in this. In this instance, you have to have this kind of sealer. There's all kinds of sealers out there, okay? And if you see a water-based sealer, just forget about it. It's not going to work. And all you have to do is look on any can here, look under, read the directions, and see what it cleans up with. If you need methylated spirit or rubbing alcohol to clean it up, it's going to work. If it takes anything else, it most likely is not going to work. So just make sure you purchase a product that has to be cleaned up with methylated spirits or rubbing alcohol, and you're guaranteed it's going to work. So look, just a quick recap. Clean up your window, get it nice and clean, wash it if you want to. Make sure you sand between the coats, and remember you only need one coat, not 2 or 3 coats of the special etch primer for your aluminium. If you're going to repaint the wood rebate around the window, if you're going to use oil-based paints, you don't need to worry about your stains. This window, I think from memory, I got it from a second-hand place, was probably $20, $30. The amount of time that I spent actually working on this window is much less than an hour, not even an hour. So if you've got 10 or 15 windows, it's going to take you some time. So if you're willing to put in a little bit of effort, if you've got the time, you're going to be far ahead financially by getting second-hand windows and fixing them up and making them look brand new.